Today I'm hanging out and conversating with Halee Daily. She is a mortgage loan originator. She is the VP of production at Envoy Mortgage. She has over 20 years of experience in the industry. She's licensed in multiple states and she's based out of Roseville, California, so Northern California. And what I love about Halee and what her clients say about her is that she is big on communication. She's super knowledgeable and she somehow makes even the messiest deals feel easy, which you may or may not know, but in this industry, that is really hard to do. So you're going to find out that Halee is relationship driven. She's a high touch LO. And I'm just really excited to have this conversation with her today. So welcome, Halee.
Thank you, Bobby, for having me. I'm excited. I'm excited to learn more about the platform, and it was fun to catch up.
Yay. Well, let's just jump right in and let's go back 20 or so years ago and tell us, how the heck did you end up in the mortgage industry?
I ended up in the industry post-college. I'm a psychology major, and my family had two businesses. One was real estate. So my dad had a brokerage, real estate broker and lending all in one. And then my mom owned a Montessori school. And so I spent many summers, years thinking I was going to become a teacher, went to school to do that, taught 1 year in the class and realized doing the same thing every year was just not for me. And so I started to lean more towards asking my dad exactly what it is that he did every day. And so he encouraged me to get my broker's license. And while I was studying for that, I started working at a bank and received amazing customer service training, systems training. And you have to remember, this is back when there was no internet. We barely had cell phones. Yeah, we were faxing, no texting. We had email, but that was about as efficient as we were. And so I really gathered, I would say, mortgage knowledge from my experience at the bank. I actually was a home equity line of credit account executive in 1998, which was not really common. And so I grew the business in California. I was in Oregon at the time. And then I think, like many of us who got into the business 20 years ago, you worked from the bottom and you just learned and you did one goal within the loan workflow or within the company. And then you just moved up and up and up. And so while I was an account executive, I actually met a young loan officer at a mortgage brokerage shop. And she asked for me to be her assistant. And so I transitioned purely over to the mortgage side. And at that time, I had no idea what a note was, a deed of trust. I had no idea what escrow or title was. I still had not passed my license at the time. It was very difficult. And just started learning definitions, workflows. Everything had paper. We had floppy disks at the time. So we would make copies and we would clip paper together and we would transbox it. So for your senior mortgage people, they know what I'm talking about, but anybody that's new really has no concept of the immense amount of paperwork that was involved in lending. And I think what's interesting in marrying the education piece of my background and then the mortgage side, there was no training available, right? So I only learned in the way that the company that I was part of. I was with that company and with that loan officer for 5 years. And then I moved on to the next company, right? And so for many people who got into the business in that way, it could take 5 to 7 years to actually become a loan officer, to learn enough to become a loan officer. There really was no direct path to just become a loan officer. And I think maybe even for me, because I wanted to learn everything before I actually spoke like I was a professional.
Right.
I was not willing or brave enough to just jump in. And so let's go to 10 years ago, even. There really still is nothing or was nothing in our industry that would provide new people coming in with a very nice foundation of mortgage understanding or lending understanding. And you can learn guidelines, but then, also in mortgage,
Right.
You have to learn the workflow. You have to learn the communication, the sales aspect, and then there's the math, and then the systems and the
Right.
technology. So there is definitely more to getting in the business now. I would say that even when I got in 25 years ago, a lot of our systems are the same, the workflows are the same. It was a slower pace, I think. I think now with everything being electronic, we can get more done in a shorter amount of time, but then that requires you to have to learn to navigate our systems in that way very quickly. So for
Right.
me, getting started, knowing nothing, foundationally having to have those building blocks, have people that were willing to teach me, and then also the right people. The person I worked with,
Right.
if I
Makes a
made a
big difference.
mistake,
Yeah.
yeah, I made a mistake. She was like, all right, you can figure it out. Like she did not fix it for me. I had to do the research. So I was lucky to have great mentors coming into the business. But that's how I got started. It was by accident and it was not intentional.
Well, I think we're going to hear that a lot as we continue on with these conversations. Is I don't think anybody as a little kid when they're in kindergarten is filling out their "what I want to be" says loan officer, and if there
Yeah.
are, please send them to us, because it's such a great job, but it's not for everybody. It's not easy. It's not a get rich quick. Like you said, it takes years. But as part of our philosophy is, there's education and there's mentorship, and you touched on that. And I think that is really important, is to get yourself a really great mentor and teacher or coach or whatever you want to call it, but somebody that is willing to do that. And it's not super easy to find. So,
Mm-mm.
um, you know, so with that, let's talk a little bit though. You've been in the business for 20 years and we've been through a lot of cycles, right? The ups, the downs, the good and the bad. What do you think has kept you in the industry for those 20 years?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that's a two-part answer for me. The first part is what we do or what I do within working with my clients is repetitive. In many ways, it's repetitive as far as how I structure a loan or how I piece a file together or problem solve. But I think what's exciting about being a loan officer is that every client loan is unique and different. And so there's a little tinge of that adrenaline rush of like solving something that other people either said there's no way that, this couple is going to be able to buy a home, or they don't have enough in down payment funds. And so to be able to use the years of knowledge and the resources that I have available to me within my company, I think that part is super exciting, and to be able to help create home ownership for those that desire it. So I really enjoy that part of it.
The
And I think
rush.
yeah, the rush. I mean, I will say that there's a lot foundationally that is the same, but every file is unique, just like every borrower and client, they have their own unique story, the season that they are in their life. And as you
Right.
get to know your clients and when they come back, right, or you're helping their kids or their grandkids, like I have already gone through that cycle of helping families that I met that were very young after over 20 years. I just had a client close on a house that is their forever home. Like she
Yeah.
has already bought and sold homes over the last 15 years for her family.
Yeah.
Now her kids are grown. She has grandkids, and she bought her forever home, her single story that, she intends to stay in for
Yeah.
the rest of her days. And so that it's been a fun process. I think the second part to it has been the flexibility. So we are fortunate, I would say, even in the last 15 years, especially during a time when many people were sent to work at home, we have the flexibility to travel. As long as you have internet, Wi-Fi, and security access, let's say from a VPN,
Keep it
you pretty,
compliant.
that's right, stay compliant. You can work from anywhere. And that includes, you have a balance with your family for sure, an integration of work and family and life. We are on call all the time. I feel like, you can take intentional days off and you let your clients and your team know. But today, we're getting ready for a holiday weekend. If a client called me tonight to make an offer, I more than likely will have to take a pause, work on the file, get that pre-approval over. that's the trade-off. However, on the flip side, if I wanted to go travel to Mexico for 2 weeks and work from there, I would have the ability to do that as well. So I
Yeah.
think as you're wanting to have a family, you're growing a family, you're getting ready to be an empty nester or retire and still be relevant in the industry, I think this is very much a long-term career and opportunities for growth and just flexibility.
So I hear you saying that this job would allow you to have some amount of balance, right? And
I would say cyclically. So you
yeah,
said we've
yeah,
gone through cycles.
just
When
as
it is
long as
busy, it is busy. When it is not, that's when you take care of all your other stuff and you really lock down basics. You regenerate your business, and so you do have to be prepared for those low cycles as well
yeah,
as be strong for when we get so busy that there's just not enough hours in the day, because it will happen.
yeah, yes, yes, it will.
Mhm.
Especially, one of the things we always say in the industry is if you're not busy, go on vacation,
True.
right? And
Yeah.
that's when
Yeah.
everybody calls you, you're trying to go on
That's right.
vacation.
That's
All
right.
right, well, if you could go back to when you first started, is there anything that you would have done differently?
I do think if I could do anything different, it would be to become a loan officer sooner, because my path, the trajectory did change a bit. I was still licensed eventually, but I really focused more on operations and processing and being an assistant, which is awesome as far as the foundational knowledge that I gained during that time. I think I lacked belief in my abilities to be an independent loan officer and to be on my own and to be commission only. So I think if I could go back in time, not I had amazing mentorship and I worked for an amazing company and it totally would have been possible. I just don't think I had the internal belief that I could be on my own as
Right.
full commission. So I think if I could go back, I would have gone straight loan officer sooner. I
Okay.
think, from what you shared with me in what platform you're providing, I think a platform like this would absolutely have given me more knowledge, more security in information and resources and a network. I think and even so when I started, right, we barely had the internet. I mean, barely. Like we didn't have cell phones. I think I had like the first Nokia.
Yeah, it just
Yeah.
feels hard to even believe,
Yeah.
given where we are in AI and tech right now, that we lived in a world at one point without all of that.
Yeah. So
It's
think like the isolation in a way, like I had my
right.
very secure, great mentor group that was local. But the fact that now when you are coming into this industry, you can tap into YouTube, you can tap into the internet, other social platforms and groups for the support somebody may or want or need
Right.
to have a bit more of that confidence. So
Right.
I would say this is an exciting time for new people getting in.
Hey. Well, for someone that just got licensed and maybe hasn't closed a deal yet, what should they
Mhm.
actually be focused on right now?
So fundamentals, and I think in sales in general, regardless of the industry that you are in, your sphere of influence is extremely important. And I think that's in any business, that's the first thing that you learn is look at your friend list, write down 10 names. Okay, now go to those friends and ask them for 10 names, get their phone numbers, their emails. If they want to give you their address, that's great too. And then really you just start to leverage that outreach and it becomes a ripple effect. And as long as you can continually go back to basics and leverage your sphere of influence and you can grow that to 100 to 200 people, that is what is going to keep you busy over the long haul. And then you have a separate pillar that would be business partners. So then start to look at um, CPAs, lawyers, accountants, uh, probably in your 100 list of people you will eventually know. You start with 10, 20, it grows to 100. They probably have a CPA or an accountant that they can
Right.
introduce you to, right? So it seems overwhelming in the beginning when you're first getting started to think like, I don't know 100 people. I guarantee you do. Look in your phone. You probably have 5 email addresses that you've gathered in the last 10 years. Go through those emails, write the names down, get an Excel doc out, I don't care if it's on a piece of notebook paper, right? Like you have to start somewhere and you have to break it into smaller bites. And so I think when you're new and you don't have business, you have to cultivate your own business. I mean, back in the day, the rule of thumb, again, no internet, barely any email, no cell phone,
Right.
literally going out into the public and telling 10 people what you do.
It's
That's
the same
business fundamental.
strategy.
Same
It's the same
strategy,
strategy.
right?
Okay.
If you leverage the internet or social media, you can cast a much wider net and you can hit more people that way. But if you had all of that taken away from you as a new person, you still can hustle, knock on doors, hit the streets, go to a mall, right? Like it just
Right.
is, I think there's still this element of hustle and drive that has to be very important through your career as a loan officer. So you're going to start out that way. You're going to work those 100 leads, those first 30, 60 days. You don't stop. You have to keep cultivating names and numbers and emails and connections. And then you'll find out who your hot leads are and then who your connectors are. So your family might be an awesome way for you to gain connection. They can introduce you each to 10 people, neighbors, community groups, churches. It's endless. Your pool of individuals is there's no limit. And so
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing when you're new, just be in abundance. There's plenty of business out there
Right.
for you.
Right.
I don't care if you have 20 loan officers on your street. Somebody is going to want to work with you
Right.
instead of your neighbor that's a loan officer.
And I think it's important to say too, in that situation, you're not just going to places that you think are business. Like you said, if you go to church, talk about it at church. If you ride horses, talk about it at the horse stable. If you work at a restaurant, it's very, being a loan officer, I feel like that is any person that you talk to at the grocery store, the lady that's checking you out. How's your day going? Great. I'm a loan officer. Here's my card, right? It's like the more people that you talk to, you're living the hustle. You're just going to tell every single person.
Tell everybody. Yeah. Just tell everybody.
Your customers are everybody. That's the great thing about mortgage is everybody is a customer. And if you don't tell them, then you've missed that opportunity. So you're going to be scared in the beginning, but just start saying it and then you'll believe it, right?
And I think part of being a loan officer is you're really not selling anything. You're not selling a product. You are educating about what's available. So when a person may be thinking about buying a home, they're not sure they're ready, or they own a home and they're just really not sure how to get themselves out of debt. Really, you just come from a place of education. So the more you can educate yourself as a loan officer, as somebody who has access to these mortgage products, you can share that knowledge. And I think that was my approach when I got started. And I think because I also was not as sales heavy when I started, I very much was service and education heavy as I worked with loan officers and I worked with their clients. And so the other important part of, again, going back to sphere of influence, like you're saying, everybody is your potential client. I had a great loan officer in my branch that was in a kayak club. There was like 100 members of this kayak club, and he was the only one that was in mortgage lending. The foundation of and he was a brand new loan officer getting into the business.
Yeah.
The foundation of his business, and he still is in business now, was from that kayak club. He had 100 people. They love doing business with like-minded people. You want to engage with people that you enjoy spending time with. And then they just continually introduced him to people that they knew. And so another example is I had a loan officer who played musical instruments in his church, and they would travel around and play in festivals. And so he just told people that he had access to loans. And if they had any questions about buying or refinancing, he had access to 60 years of experience at the office he was with.
Oh, I love that.
He literally had only been in the business like 2 months.
Yeah.
And he's still in the business.
It's how you package it. So I love that. And I think there's a lot of quiet time in a kayak. There's a lot of time to talk about deep thoughts and how you're going to refinance. I love that. Well, you've given us a lot of really good insights, but we want loan officers to be able to take one thing away and say, oh, that's something I can do today. So if there's someone that is brand new, like they just passed their test, what is one piece of advice or one thing that they should do today to help them build a 20-year career in the mortgage industry?
Do not create a database.
Oh, I love it. I love it. The database, the
Oh,
sphere of influence. Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'm just saying, like, we all come into this intentionally. That's great. You know, you have your sheet, your sphere of influence, you join a company, you start doing well, and then you lose sight of keeping track of all the people that you talk with, engage with, get phone numbers from. So I would say intentionally, wherever you land, and it could be that the company you join has an awesome database. Maybe they don't have a way to build a database. Don't let that part go.
Right.
As a business professional, a sales professional, somehow find a way, whether it's Google Doc, I don't care, just
Even
find a
your phone,
way.
even
Your
your
phone.
iPhone, just the way
Yes,
you set them up, just do it
that's right.
consistently for every person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah,
the
don't lose
database.
sight of that. When you, just because you think you only know 50 people,
Yeah.
in 3, 6, 9 months, there will be 500 names. And if you don't start keeping track of that when you start, that would be my biggest piece of advice is wrangle that database from day one.
So let's say, excuse me, we have a new person, right? Should there be a certain amount of leads they're trying to get a day to build that? Is that helpful to say every day I'm going to get 3 leads or I'm going to meet 3 people to put in my database?
I think the average conversion of what I see is for every 10 people you talk to, one might actually be interested. Now,
Okay.
that doesn't mean they're going to apply.
Right.
So typically when you're new, you will need to talk to 50 people to probably get 3 applications. And that's on a very low conversion. So then as you get better at scripting, as you start to realize who really is a cold, a warm, or a hot lead, where do you spend your time? Where do you time block and spend your time? Then your conversion is going to get better. So I think a goal out of the gates, regardless of what the conversion is to talk to 10 people. Every day, if you talk to 10 people, eventually you will convert out 3 to 4 applications a week. So that's 70 people a week.
Mm-hmm.
And if you know you're going to be gone on a weekend or on vacation, that means you have to move those 70 names, split them between the week before you're gone and the week after you're gone. It's just math. It's a math
Yeah.
equation. And it's pretty tried and true. Your conversion is going to get better the more efficient and proficient you are in your scripting and your time blocking and activity.
Right.
I can go on and on about like
Yeah.
activity tracking. I mean, there's
Yeah.
a whole philosophy around that. But when you are new, 10 a day, just do 10 a day, 10 people, just talk.
And I just want to clarify, I call this in the mortgage industry feeding the beast, right? And I want you to talk a little bit about why you're doing that. Your future deals, like you might have 5 deals in the pipe and you close those 5 deals. You still have to be feeding the beast to get the next 5 deals, right? So it's
That's
like
right.
it's a circle. You're constantly feeding it. And you're going to have high months, you're going to have low months, but the one consistent thing is you're getting those 10 leads. You're making those connections and you need a place to
Absolutely.
store it, right? So that is
Yeah.
kind of the base. And if you have that in the beginning, you'll more likely have a career. You're building a career, from that.
Mm-hmm. I think
So,
I am not sure who said this. Somebody who has been in the industry a very long time. And when I say this out loud, and if people have been in the industry, they'll be like, I can't believe she didn't remember his name. I think the answer is if you have 2,000 people in your database and you mine your database and you follow up and you cultivate and you really work on connecting with that database, that would be enough to sustain you in this career. 2,000, I think, is the magic number. But again, I think it's systems. So when you're looking at a new company or you're looking to join, what are their systems? Are you going to have a database that's going to support your growth? And then it's process. You have to be able to repeat the work, learn the process so that you're like setting it and forgetting it. So to feed the beast, right? I keep feeding these leads or these applications, and then it's people. I have to have people and support downstream in operations to make sure that when I do convert an application and I have somebody that's interested, they can help me get that loan closed, because I don't want to be in that business. I want to be meeting new people and cultivating those new leads.
Right.
And I would say this is a shift in being able to grow in this industry. Is some loan officers just work their pipeline and they're only able to close 3 to 4 loans a month consistently, which is really great. That's a great
Right.
business. But if you do want to close 10 or 15 and you want to scale your business, that's when all these fundamentals are really critical. And you have to align yourself with a company that can support you with the technology and the process and the people so that
Right.
you can grow. So when you're new, I would say just the tech, making sure you're building your database and not getting lost in the weeds of working in the business. You need to continually be sourcing leads and talking to people. Your highest and best use is talking to people as a loan officer. When you're new, that's hard because you really want to touch everything and you want to understand everything. So I think that's where you do have to give yourself grace for the first 6 months of knowing that you're going to want to be in the weeds, but that cannot be forever. You have to then align yourself with a company that gets you into the people part of who can help you grow your business so you can continue to bring and feed the beast, for lack of a better statement.
We love feeding the beast. We
Feed the
love
beast.
feeding the
Yeah.
beast.
You're always going to be at a calorie deficit. That's why I always think, like, what if I stop working on leads today? Then that's going to affect my pipeline 30 to 60 days downstream. So if you go on a 3-week
Right.
vacation things were busy, I'm exhausted, it's, July and I just need to take time off. And so
Yeah.
let's say I take August off and I take the foot off the gas. September, there's going to be very little business. Everything is 30 days, 30 days. It takes about 30 days to cycle through active contracts or active
Right.
applications and with your clients. So you really have to be building that future pipeline every 30, 60 days. And if you're going to take your foot off the gas on a vacation, you have to plan for it mathematically and do the work before you leave and when you get back, so you don't have any break in your production.
I think that's a great mindset. And I hope that is the key takeaway that our newbies listening take away, is that if you feed the beast, think about when you're taking those vacations, you're going to get some big paychecks and you're going to want to do all the things. But if you want to continue those, you got to keep doing it. So this has been so good, Halee. I feel like there's so much in here for new loan officers, especially when they're getting started and just trying to figure out the whole thing. And I know you're very busy doing all the things that you do. So I thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. And for anybody that's listening, we'll be back with more conversations with Mortgage Peeps. So thanks for joining.